What's up, everybody? It's Holman, and I would like to welcome you back to the Podshed for another episode of the Truck Show Podcast. Once again, I'm squeezing this episode in between some travel. I've been all over the place. Just got back from a Nissan Pro 4X drive in Scottsdale, Arizona, where I hung out with none other than Emmy Hall for a day of wheeling the Nissan Frontier Pro 4X and Armada Pro 4X. More to come on the Nissans in a future episode, and as you might imagine, we may have gotten a few more Emmy drops. I've also spent a ton of time and miles in the new Ram 2500 HD with the 6.7-liter Cummins, and I'll have a review on that, and then what's in Holman's driveway in a few episodes. We've just so backed up with great content, we got to push that back a little bit. In this episode, I welcome two old friends of mine on the show, automotive journalist and off-road expert Sue Mead, and Optima's Cam Douglass. So we talk about the industry, conventional 12-volt systems, EVs, battery tech, recycling, and do a deep dive into Optima batteries and give you some insight into the brand and the Optima products that you know and love and the battery I personally run. But before we get started, got to thank the companies that make the Truck Show Podcast possible. The Truck Show Podcast is presented by Nissan, and if you're in the market for a brand new SUV or midsize truck, head on down to your local Nissan dealership. Although I didn't go to the local Nissan dealership. I went out to Scottsdale, Arizona, and got to spend a lot of time off-roading the Pro 4X models of both the redesigned 25 Frontier and the all-new 25 Nissan Armada, and both were awesome. Of course, the Frontier has the 3.8-liter V6 with 310 horsepower and 281 pound-feet of torque standard. It's backed by Nissan's 9-speed automatic transmission, and the base model, the Nissan Frontier S, starts at just $32,050. And it has a maximum towing capacity of up to 7,150 pounds and an off-road package that includes Bilsteins, a rear locker, full skid plates. Had a ton of fun in the Frontier. It's so much fun to drive off-road and so capable. It's a truck that's meant for work or play, but if you need something that's more family-oriented, then you might want to check out the 2025 Nissan Armada. It was designed with exceptional comfort in mind. This luxurious and capable body-on-frame SUV can go toe-to-toe with any of the competition in its class, especially off-road. Again, point your browser to nissanusa.com and find the perfect quality-built Nissan to fit your needs. And all the way back in 1972, the synthetic oil category was started by AMSOIL, and the company continues to innovate today with a wide selection of synthetics that are formulated, blended, and packaged right here in the USA. These specialized lubricants are engineered for what you drive and how you drive. AMSOIL's catalog includes truck and passenger car oils with formulations specific to high mileage, hybrid, diesel, and you can't ignore the industry-leading Signature Series. With coverage for ATVs and UTVs, along with small engines, AMSOIL has your whole fleet covered, and by using AMSOIL's Shop by Vehicle tool, selecting the right motor oil for your application is easy. AMSOIL.com offers package-size recommendations to maximize your savings, including AMSOIL's Ultimate Oil Change Kit. This means you can get everything you need for an oil change right at your door in one box. That's filter, gloves, funnel, even a reminder sticker. It's all shipped to your door. AMSOIL offers the protection you demand and the performance you deserve. Get yours today, AMSOIL.com. And if you're like me and you love having a knife in your pocket, you definitely want to pick up a Kershaw knife. All Kershaw knives come with a limited lifetime warranty, and repair parts are available through the website. Kershaw knives also include lifetime sharpening, and the lineup has everything you need from EDC knives that can be used and abused for under $50 all the way up to the high-end stuff. Thanks to our generous partnership with Kershaw Knives, the Truck Show Podcast listener can get 40% off MSRP and free shipping over $50 by using the code 25TSP40 at checkout. It can be used more than once and even includes automatics. Support the Truck Show Podcast and get yourself a Kershaw knife today. And when it comes to amazing vehicle-based adventure content, how-tos, and great storytelling, only one brand is doing it right in the print magazine space, and that's OVR, Outdoor Vehicle Recreation. OVR is about getting out there in our vehicles to explore and discover the world around us. Get complimentary access for a year to the digital library or a discount on your print subscription today at OVRmag.com. Use the promotional code at Truck Show Podcast. The Truck Show Podcast survives off your reviews and sponsorships, so please help me to keep it free by leaving your reviews and comments on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and by supporting our sponsors.
The Truck Show. We're gonna show you what we know. We're gonna answer what the truck, 'cause truck rhymes with the Truck Show. We have the lifted, we have the lowered, and everything in between. We'll talk about trucks that run on diesel, electricity,
The Truck Show with your host, Holman.
That's right. It's your favorite automotive podcast and your favorite host, I'd like to think. That's me, Holman. All right, so first up on this episode, we've got Sue Mead and Cam Douglass. And this was one of those interviews that was a little bit longer than our typical interview, but there's so much great stuff in it. I just didn't want to cut that much out of it. So we're going to let it flow, and we'll get to some of the other stuff, the RAM review and all that in the upcoming episode. But this is going to be a really good one. And if you've never heard of Sue Mead, I guarantee you've read her stuff in the past. And Cam Douglass, he has been my man at Optima Battery for decades. And both are great people. And I think you'll really enjoy this conversation with the three of us talking about batteries and EVs and all sorts of things you may have been curious about with batteries. So let's hear from Sue Mead and Cam Douglass. All right, everybody, I'm with two legends of the off-road world, both Sue Mead, who is a pioneer in journalism, and my good friend Cam Douglass. By the way, both of you were in Dakar at the same time I was in Dakar, which is kind of funny because I wasn't able to hook up with Sue, but I turned around and Cam was standing in the Ford Performance bivouac with me, and I was like, hey, what are you doing here? So welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you. And I could say the same thing. Sean, I didn't get to see you in Saudi Arabia. I didn't know that Cam was there. I got on an airplane and turned around in the aisle of the airplane. I believe it was in Bisha, Saudi Arabia. And I said, Cam, what are you doing here?
A lot of us who see each other fairly regularly in the States, whether it's an event or SEMA or a race or, media drive or something like that, sometimes we travel all the way around the world to see each other in far off places, more so than we do when we're at home. So it's always a pleasure to see friends on the road. I think my 25 or so years of doing this, one of my favorite things is finding a friendly at an airport and finding out they're on the same trip as you, or running into somebody that you know in some far off place. It just makes it more special, and I always enjoy that.
Yeah, it's funny. You go to cool places, you meet cool people, right?
Yep, absolutely. All right, so everybody who comes on the Truck Show podcast gets a jingle. Here we go.
Yo, the Truck Show! Who dis? Who the hell is this? A Truck Show interview you don't want to miss. We talk to top dogs in the industry. How'd you blow up? How'd you come to be? Who dis? Truck Show represent.
All right, so like I said, our who dis today is Sue Mead and Cam Douglass. And Sue, why don't you give the audience a little bit of background, because I don't know if they know you. They've probably read your stuff over the years, but you're quite the Renaissance woman. Not only have you been a very long time automotive journalist, you have raced, you've won races, you've traveled probably 6 of the continents. Maybe have you been to the 7th?
No, that's still on the bucket list. I've sort of stopped the bucket list, but I've been to 74 countries, Sean.
Oh my God.
And I think I've been four-wheeling in, let's say, 72. Not always intentional in a couple. Certainly been in the mud. I've been very, very fortunate. I started my career at Four Wheeler Magazine 37 years ago in 1988. I don't often say that year because it sounds like '06 to some younger folks. But I was very fortunate to start at Four Wheeler, really learn the ropes from a top group of guys, most of whom are still in the business today, and then meet you when you took over the group of magazines as I spread out and started to work for a number of the truck publications. And the other thing I'll tell you is that I am an automotive journalist. I've tested probably close to 3,000 cars. Vehicles. I still get a new one in my driveway every week. But my passion is off-road, four-wheeling, and I have raced 6 Bajas, a couple of Noras, Vegas to Reno, the Gazelle Rally in Morocco, and I have competed in 2 Dakars. I was fortunate to win. Darren Skilton and I won our class in OP2 in 2011 in the first gen Ford Raptor. with a V6 engine, reason being so we could have better fuel economy. So I've just hooked up with, I've known you for a long time. I just hooked up with Cam and Optima last year. We'll be talking about that. And it's been so exciting to add this team of enthusiastic folks. They're athletes, and to learn about their products, and to go to their camp twice. I was fortunate to be there again recently.
Before we get into Cam and Optima and Clarios, I just want to point out, not only is Sue a certified badass in off-roading, she decided, 8 years ago that you wanted to get your pilot's license?
I did. I think my favorite part of that story was the airport was 5 minutes from my door. I'd had good and bad flights around the world. I was getting to be a baby about the bad flights, and even used a few swear words at times during moments of terrible turbulence. And I thought that if I learned what was going on and was able to go from right seat up front to left seat, I might feel better. And that really has been the case. I just loved it, and I love it. But when the ability to fly near my home went belly up, I started training in Texas, and it took me 5 years to get my pilot's license. I had to wait until there were car programs that would get me to Texas, and I'd drive 3 hours from Dallas up to the north and stay at a wonderful place and do my training there. So I've been really fortunate. I love flying, whether it's flying along on a desert hard pack, going through the air over dunes, or up in the air in an airplane.
How many trucks do you think you've jumped in your day, Sue?
Wow. On purpose?
Sure, why not?
I'm going to go with, I was going to say 30 or 40. My first off-road race was with Rod Hall in a Hummer H1 in 1995. Yep. There wasn't too much jumping. That weighed so much in its original form. It was a brick. And halfway through our 500-mile run, I thought, this is the craziest thing in the world. Why would anyone do it? And I never, ever dreamed that when we went across the finish line, by then I was hooked. A lot of that was Rod. But I've been able to get airbound in a number of trucks during testing, particularly shock testing,
sure.
Shock and suspension testing. And I really enjoy that.
It's fun. I remember when the first generation Raptor came out, we had our first media loan, and we went out to Olancha Sand Dunes, and we must have launched that thing for a cover photo 70 times. I mean, Ken Brubaker shooting photos. I was driving, so I got all these great photos of me in an orange extended cab Raptor that made it on the cover. But that was a lot of fun, and always fun spending time with you at different trips and with different cars and getting your point of view. And then,
can I interrupt? I do want to say a really cool factoid. My first cover photo in 1989 was me with Ken von Hulmet in a white Range Rover going through the air in Dumont Dunes when we were doing our annual four-wheeler of the year testing. I had seen vehicles going through the air on that event, and I couldn't believe a vehicle could get off the ground, and people did it on purpose. So I jumped in. There is a cover of Four Wheeler magazine. My mouth is O-shaped, and that you can't hear the noise that I was making when we left the ground. So it's my favorite jump.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And Cam, I've known you over 20 years. I mean, you've always been to me, the Optima guy when we've used batteries and whatnot. Big fan of Optima batteries. I've used them on all my project vehicles. You've been a great supporter of the magazines and all the work that I've done over the years, and it's been really amazing to have a relationship. Not many people stay in the same place for a long time, so to have those long-term relationships that you can rely on with people that you formed a friendship with over the years is always great. And now you're working for a different variation of Optima, owned by a company called Clarios, which there's a lot to talk about there too, but maybe let everybody know a little bit about your background.
Sure. Yeah, grew up in SoCal and kind of hub of, modifying things and making things with wheels and motors go fast. So grew up here and raised bicycle motocross and motorcycles at escape country, saddleback, etc., and then raced at OCIR and got into cars, and just always been kind of a gearhead throughout my life. And then had a unique opportunity to go to work for Optima back in when it first really kind of started in this industry, which was the early 90s, and never looked back. So been having fun there ever since.
What was the draw to Optima? And maybe explain to people why the product was so novel when it was first launched. And it's been one of those products that I think has evolved over time, but the original tenet of what made it special hasn't really changed.
Yeah, and so in when I went to work for them, the reason I did was they were looking for a way to sell excess capacity in a new factory that was brand new and built in Aurora, Colorado, and that was in 94-ish. Our only customer prior to that was the U.S. military, biggest, only customer at that time. And they said, hey, we're going to double production. How do we sell these things? And a very smart guy, Jerry Conrad, who was and still is a great entrepreneur, approached me and he said, look at this cool product. And at the time, I had a car dealership. So I was wheeling and dealing some fun cars, muscle cars and trucks and Land Cruisers. I looked at it and I said, this thing's awesome. And he said, yeah, it's totally sealed, high vibration resistance. It lasts longer, has a ton of power for its size, all this great stuff. And I said, that's awesome. How much is it? He said, and this is at the time, right? 1994, it was $100. And I looked at him and I said, you're crazy. I was buying brand new batteries from Interstate for like $29, right? Anyway, over the course of time, I came to appreciate the product, put it in cars. Remember those vehicles that you bought, like if you bought a cool old muscle car or truck, and the whole battery compartment was all rusty because of all the fumes and, acid that would spill out. So anyway, that's how it started. I agreed to work for them. And at the time, if you remember, Sean, we had made deals with all the magazines. We had a half-page ad that said, buy the first battery at $149 and you get the second one for $129.95. And we were shipping them everywhere. This is pre-internet, obviously. But it was the only battery that could be put in a box and shipped legally through USPS or UPS or FedEx. So anyway, that's how it started.
Yeah, it was really novel at the time. I remember when they first came out, and before I was ever at the magazine, reading those ads, and it was like, oh, I want this. You can mount it sideways. It doesn't care. It doesn't spill. It's, this funny like spiral shapes, cells in there, the vibration resistance. Because prior to that, you would go off-roading, and the old lead acid batteries were heavy. You get a strap that would break. It would flop over on its side. It would spill its contents everywhere. It would start etching the inside of the engine compartment and your paint. I mean, it was really a mess. Having a sturdy battery tie down was kind of a big deal. And then having a battery that, I don't know, you didn't have to worry about that happening. I can't tell you how many times I was off-roading, jumped a truck on purpose or accident, and the tie-down bracket broke, and the battery flipped inside the cargo or inside the engine compartment, and then was bouncing around off-road, just spraying acid everywhere. And with the Optima, you didn't have to do that anymore. And the fact that the Optima had a little bit more power, so you can put, for the given size of the space of the tray, battery for battery, there was more power output. And then you guys expanded into deep cycle and marine. I think the deep cycle was kind of, the yellow top versus the red top, which is your starting battery. The deep cycle's really taken off in the off-road community, especially with overlanders, just because of the high draw of all the things they have on there and the fact that you can deep discharge it. I'm not sure if that battery was really intended for that use. I feel like it was probably intended more for RVs or golf carts or things like that, but that seems to be the battery. In fact, in my 392, that's what I run, is a yellow top.
Right on. And that is the good or best default choice. If you're unsure of what you want or what you need, anytime you have additional accessories or higher amperage draw than what your alternator can put out at any given time, yellow top's the choice. It was really developed late in the 90s with cooperation with and a partnership with Chrysler. We were helping them develop an EV at that time. And so that's what that chemistry was designed for. The red top battery still cycled better than most deep cycle batteries, but the yellow top far and away exceeded the cycle life. But the cool part about it is, since it's still pure lead, it has extremely high cranking power that exceeds most people's needs. So they can use it for a true dual purpose battery.
Yeah, and that's once I realized, even back when I was at four-wheeler, and we would do batteries, or you guys would send us batteries for a project or something, and we would have to decide, do we want, red top, yellow top? I would always get red tops because I didn't understand at that time, at least early on, that the yellow top, which was fairly new, could be used in both roles. Once I was educated on that, I've always used yellow tops. It's the sweet spot, and especially for overlanders and people or racers or people who have a lot of lights, a lot of electronics, your fridge. You want it to last a little bit longer, and if you accidentally go over the edge, you can bring that battery back. And the yellow top's been a fantastic battery in pretty much everything that I've owned in the last, 25 years probably.
Right on.
John, I wanted to just add, not to belabor that, but I wanted to add to that something I mentioned to Cam. When I learned last year that the Optima batteries were sealed, I immediately thought that would be such an advantage for an off-roader if you had a rollover. But I didn't think that off-road vehicles aren't the only vehicles that roll over. And I thought about the fact that a sealed battery in any kind of accident or rollover is not only a great advantage to the owner, but also to first responders and folks that are trying to deal with the front end of the car and help get people out. So I just think that's a really cool feature.
Anytime that you can reduce risk in anything, whether it's off-road when you're remote away from everybody, or for a first responder, or not having a battery be the cause of something, that's great. So the Optimas they're safer. It's just a better battery, and it's something that I put my name behind on the articles I've written, and I've always had a great experience with everything Optima. Now, Optima was purchased a few years ago by a company called Clarios, and you guys have been doing quite a bit of marketing, and Clarios is kind of a new name to what we do, but the business model behind it's really fascinating. Cam, if you want to kind of walk us through Clarios and how that ties into Optima and how those two companies are working together.
Right on. Well, yeah, and Clarios is our parent company, and is the largest manufacturer globally of low voltage battery systems. And what does that mean? Well, that's anything 48 volts and lower. And that's today's world, because we're working on higher voltage technology as well. But that includes, the majority of our business today, which is primarily lead acid. Most vehicles today still start with a lead acid battery, but it also includes a deep knowledge and production of lithium batteries as well as some exciting new technology. So that's Clarios, and Clarios powers 1 in 3 vehicles globally. And chances are really good in North America that the vehicle you drive today is powered by a Clarios battery, OE from the manufacturer, and then also from a replacement standpoint. Optima is a very small division of Clarios, but it's one of the few brands that we own outright and manage, produce that battery, and all through the distribution system, through marketing, et cetera. It's kind of our flagship brand, our top technology. It's the only battery we make that's pure lead. It's kind of the pinnacle of our lead acid technology.
Now, putting it into scale, how many batteries does Clarios Optima sell in a year globally? I mean, it's got to be an ungodly number, right?
Yeah, globally, it's right around 155 million.
Wow. That's a lot of batteries.
Yeah, U.S. It's the whole market's right around 100 million. So, and we make a significant portion of that.
We've talked on the show how, in fact, I was kind of bringing up how I had an Optima battery. Actually, just saved me. You guys shipped me out an Optima battery probably a month ago, and I was just too busy to get it installed. And I had gone out in November and bent my front axle on the Jeep. Stupid. Wasn't even going that fast. Was going down a trail, 400 miles off road, 8 miles to go. Little turn, going about 23 miles an hour, and my magnetic mic fell off the dash because the set screw backed out, and so the magnet that captures the back of the hanger let the hanger drop. So I reached over to grab it, and a rut took me right into the little sand berm with a flat face rock. Bam, nailed it. So anyway, got home and I parked the Jeep, and I was so mad at it, I just left. I didn't even start it for a month, and I went out. I should start it, so I started it about a month ago. It fired up, let it run, do its thing while I was still being angry about the axle, and went to go to the shop to get the axle fixed, and wouldn't start. And I charged it, wouldn't start. It was just too gone on the factory battery. And I went, oh, I've got that Optima box in the garage. Pulled out my yellow top, put it in, got everything done in about 35 minutes, and boom, fired right up. Everything was happy after the computers realized that they had the right voltage. So it was fortuitous that I got that battery at just the right time, because you guys saved me a trip from AAA. But we've talked about on the show how moving to a premium aftermarket battery, obviously Optima being one of them, is sort of to me the right move. Most manufacturers these days, and I won't ask you to necessarily jump in on this. Maybe Sue, you might know, but it seems like OE batteries kind of last the warranty period now. And I don't know if that's because cars have so much electronics on them, so much draw, but it used to be 7 to 10 years for a battery if you took good care of it and you did longer trips and things like that. It seems like today's cars, OE batteries are roached in 2 or 3 years sometimes, or just right inside or outside that warranty period. And so I'm always a proponent of go get a premium aftermarket battery like Optima, because it's going to handle it. It's going to last a lot longer. That's been my experience. And I don't know, feel free to jump in if you will, but I don't know if that's just the nature of the beast these days because of what these cars require for a battery. And how does having an Optima, I know it works, but how does having it make your car happier, and why do they last so much longer than your typical just OE or cheap auto parts store battery?
Well, I can jump in from, personal experience, obviously, not just from a company experience, but if you're because we use our vehicles differently.
Sure.
We put them through the paces. We put tires to the test, shocks to the test, all of those things, including the battery. And sometimes, and that's what we build Optima battery for, is that extreme use. But a daily driver, a leased Ford Taurus, I'm dating myself because they don't even make it to us anymore. But like, for example, my wife's car, she drives a Mercedes, and we bought it when it was new, had a brand new Clarios manufactured battery in it. And I didn't change it out. Left it in there. It lasted 8 years. So, but she's daily driving that. It's on the road. Not a big deal. But for the vehicles that we are using as kind of our hobby, our toy, or it's both our daily driver and our toy, those typically you're putting those through a much harder duty cycle, right? And that's when you're going to find that things fail at an earlier rate. Typically, though, in that, daily driver category, you're probably going to see some better than warranty, hopefully, better than warranty life out of them. Our products that we make for the OEs are pretty darn good for their intended use. It's all of a sudden you start adding lights or a bigger stereo or whatever that is, you're all of a sudden you're challenging that OE battery. So
it reminds me back in 2010, we built a brand new 4Runner for the SEMA booth for Toyota, and had a Optima yellow top in there, and we had all sorts of LED lights, and I don't know, that car probably had a 90 or 100 amp alternator, and I wasn't even thinking about it. We go to Death Valley, it's the middle of the night, and I'm driving, and I'm like, oh, it's so great, I'm on this trail, I'm going to find the guys where they're camping, I'm going to turn on all the lights. And I'm just driving, and I'm like, this is awesome. I've got, I've got a mini night sun, and all of a sudden the gauges start flickering, and the needles are sweeping, and I'm in the middle of Death Valley at night with the family. I'm thinking, oh no, what's going on now? Well, stupid me hadn't even thought that the alternator on that car couldn't keep up with providing the capacity to the battery that was being sucked out by all the lights that I had turned on. And fortunately, I had a yellow top, and so it had a lot of reserve capacity that it was using. And as I turned off the lights one by one, everything started coming back up, and it was driving normal again and stuff like that. But when you're young and experimenting with things like this, you have to learn the hard way sometimes. But that was a time where thankfully I had a yellow top, and I'm not so sure if I had a standard OE battery, if I did that, if I would have come back from it, I may have needed a jump on the side of the road or something, but it happens sometimes.
Now, I have a quick comment about that related to EVs. I live in New England when I'm home, and I've been a late adopter of EVs from a practicality standpoint. And one of the things I've come to learn is that the cold, I know extreme heat can have an effect on range and battery life. I personally know that the cold, extreme cold, which we've had, can as well. But to your point, Sean, all the ancillary systems that we use on vehicles, even in the night, the security systems, and some vehicles I turn on, I feel like I'm in the movie Frozen, where all these color illumination dials turn around on the center console, and I'll get mad and say, stop it, because you're burning range. And I'm supposed to have 379 miles of range. But that, and I don't want to jump to another ship here, but I joined Optima last year at the King of the Hammers, and a good friend, Scott Fosgard, told me what was going to be going on there. And believe it or not, I hadn't been to KOH. I always went to the Chicago Auto Show. And when I learned that Optima was doing what they call unplugged trail rides for electric vehicles and had the ability to offer charging to EVs with also solar and hydrogen charging there. And one of the quotes I wrote down from talking to Cam is that Optima likes to bring accessibility to all enthusiasts, regardless of the powertrain. So we're kind of talking about ICE vehicles, and then I swung over to EVs. And as an off-roader, I saw this incredible value and equity that Optima not only allowed, but set up a Rivian Owners Club. And this year there were a number of Tesla folks there, and there were some Jeep and some other vehicles. But it's so impressive to me that whole concept of Optima and all of the ends of motorsports and mobility that Optima is covering at this point.
Oh, it's crazy. So I drove a Hummer EV out there, which everybody thought I was crazy. And I was talking to our good friend Steve Von Seger, and he goes, well, if you're low on battery, you can just go see Cam because they're charging stuff up. But fortunately, in I guess it was Yucca Valley. I found a fast charger, so I was able to top off before I went down there. But I came this close to bringing my my media loan into the Optima tent, but I was only there for a day. So if I would have been there for a couple days, I probably would have had a little juice topped up. But I was surprised to see how many EVs were out there. I kind of took a flyer on bringing EV out there instead of something more traditional, but I kind of wanted to see what the experience was. And, I like to be technology neutral on this show, but I've got a little Nissan Aria and I love it. And it's the perfect around town car. 200 miles range, and it's the base model, and it's screwed together really well, and it's got all the features I want without being overly expensive or complicated. It's just a great car. But the challenge is when you get into these adventure vehicles, a Rivian R1T, R1S, a Cybertruck, a Hummer, the holes in the infrastructure start to be more apparent. So I'm really fascinated, Cam, kind of what Clarios is looking at for this adventure market. It seems like there's a lot of ideas on the board, whether there's some sort of digital jerry can where you can get X amount of miles by plugging in and you could carry this extended battery, or more charging stations out in the middle of nowhere, which is obviously a challenge. But it's with a home charger, I'm at 7.2 kilowatts on a what is it, a 30 amp circuit, something like that. So for me, my Aria charges overnight, small battery, no big deal. But now you get into F-150 Lightning, or you get into the new Chevy or GMC EV trucks, the Silverado EV or the Sierra EV, get into the Hummer, these big Ultium platforms that have these massive batteries. Your home charger isn't going to do it anymore. And so you start to realize on these bigger battery vehicles, there's more gaps than if you have a smaller car where you can just top off every day, or a fast charging session might take an hour. Even though they're charging at 350 kilowatt hours, you can't always find the infrastructure to support that, or there's a line now. And here in Southern California, we're the epicenter. So I can only imagine if there's a line now here and we've got the greatest density of chargers, what's that going to mean elsewhere in the country? How do we make it easier for people to be able to enjoy their EVs out in remote places?
Yeah, I think, the infrastructure, as you point out, today leaves a lot to be desired. If you own an EV, or people are looking at EVs, I highly recommend, if they own their own home, get solar. I did. I have a level 2 charger at home. I can charge my Rivian overnight, and it's great for around town. We've taken numerous long trips just to kind of as a test, and trust me, it tested all of our patience greatly. So, the infrastructure does leave a lot to be desired. The lines, the charging stations that are inoperable, it's a frustrating experience. I think it will get better, as long as it's not forced upon us. I think it'll naturally happen because when people take politics and push them aside, and actually drive one, I think you see smiles on faces.
Well, and you've got your Rivians from work that you guys have completely outfitted that go to all the shows. You've got a trailer with a giant solar array on it so that you can charge the mothership or other vehicles out there, which is super awesome. That thing's filled with batteries. It's been in our OVR displays. And so you guys are really at the cutting edge of kind of experimenting with what would it take to go deep in an EV. There are a lot of great things with EV, the way power is delivered, the way power up your campsite. There's so many different things within the EV space that are good. We just have to figure out battery density, charging faster, and infrastructure. We figure those things out. I don't hate EVs. I've got a plug-in hybrid that my wife drives. I got my Aria EV. Still love my 392. You're not going to pry that from my cold dead fingers, but that doesn't mean I can't appreciate going out in a overland equipped Rivian like you guys have.
Right. And so that in today's world, our solution was we brought the charging out to the middle of the desert. Clean hydrogen, solar powered, fast chargers. So people could feel comfortable coming out to the desert, venturing and coming back and feeling like, hey, I can juice up and go home. In addition to that, you mentioned our Optima power station. That was a concept we built with a 55 kilowatt energy source in this cool turtleback kitchen trailer, right? You could take it out in the middle of nowhere, put up a solar panel, keep replenishing your main battery pack, but run all the accessories throughout the day and charge your vehicle. 55 kilowatts is about 50% of a tank of a Rivian. So,
Yeah. So, for example, my Aria, I believe, is a 64 kilowatt hour battery on that.
pretty good amount of charge when
Yeah.
you need it. So providing that capability of powering your passion off road, right? Because if you don't have that mechanism, it's pretty difficult to go out in the middle of Johnson Valley and say, "Hey, I want to go out and see the overland experience that they
Sure.
had out there and feel comfortable like you're going to be able to get back."
Yeah. So interesting that you partnered with KOH this year. You were a presenting sponsor of it. You also worked with Ford. What was it about KOH that made that the right event to partner with to kind of showcase your technology and showcase the ability to go and recreate in these battery powered vehicles?
Yeah, I'd love to tell you we have one primary goal, but there's a few. And some of the big ones are building relationship with our direct customers, both from an OE level and a distributor standpoint. So we hosted some of our biggest OEM customers there, including Ford. Rivian showed up, Hyundai, Toyota was there. But building those relationships and kind of helping reinforce what our company is about, both Clarios and the Optima brand. Working with our media and influencers, we hosted quite a few of those as well. And then end users. We put on 4 different, consumer activation events. The Optima Unplugged, but we put on a Raptor specific rally, a 2-day rally during the Desert Challenge, and then a Jeep rally on Wednesday. So that's very important for us, is letting our consumers touch, feel our product, experience the product, and letting them know that everybody that works in the company, we're all enthusiasts. It's not a big, huge, massive marketing group, but every one of us has a passion for the automotive enthusiast market. Those are kind of the primary goals, but I also say as well, KOH is a proving ground for us.
Sure.
We put our product through the paces out there, and this year, our launch of our new lithium product, we had some of our prototype batteries out there. Cameron Steele was having a problem with his 4400 car, said, "Gosh, I've got this charging issue. I don't know what's going on." We went over there and said, "Hey, we think we've got a solution for you." And while he wasn't looking, we put one of our new prototype lithium batteries in there. He didn't know it, but he was a guinea pig for us. Now, he did pretty well up until he had brake issues. But the point is, our lithium battery worked awesome.
You mentioned that in your compound that you guys set up at KOH, we talked about EV and solar and hydrogen charging. Maybe talk about the infrastructure that you brought along to create the power to share with all these vehicles that went out there.
Part of the week we did run off diesel power, so I don't want to say, hey, that it was 100% clean energy. But the second part of the week, when we do host the EV crowd, we did have a massive hydrogen generator that produced almost all of the energy for the compound, in addition to a solar trailer that produced enough power to charge, I think, 4 or 5 of the EVs at a time with level 2 charging.
Wow.
So, but it powered the tent, powered all our entertainment, and obviously all the fast chargers and level 2 chargers.
So, Sean, I'd love to jump in and say something else here. And by the way, it's not that I'm not an EV fan. The town I live in is all level 2. I don't have a home charger.
Yep.
The closest fast charging is 81 miles away. So that's influenced my experience when I get one as a test car. But I think another piece of what I've been impressed by with getting to know Optima and Clarios is when I attended last year, within a half an hour, I went out someone dropped me off to hang out with Casey Curry, and I was on Chocolate Thunder with Casey Curry. Casey is one of the athletes that is in the Optima Clarios Club. And I spent some time with Tanner Faust, who was one of the lead drivers for
In
that's
fact,
another movie.
saw Tanner with Cam in Dakar, and I'm gonna try to get him on the show. He said no problem. So, Tanner is also an awesome racer in this world, and another interesting guy that you come across when you do cool stuff.
Well, and that's I sat down to talk with media, and I sat down to talk with Cam, and after a couple of questions, I said, "So, what's this all about?" In some fashion, I said that, and he said, "We're about fun. We like to have fun," and
True.
others in the company said the same thing. And the fun for me, it's like a who's who of off-roading who comes to hang out. But this year, I got to spend some time with Wayne and Kristen Matlock and Christopher Pulverdi. Oh my gosh, who just hangs out with his cowboy hat and takes people for rides when he's not winning the races there. And the atmosphere is so much about fun and about excellence. So that's another big touch point for me. And I'm afraid that I'll forget to say this in relation to the number of batteries that are sold worldwide. Cam, you're going to have to help me, but I'm also impressed by the recyclable stats that Optima and Clarios have, which is there are 8,000 batteries recycled every hour of every day.
Good job, Sue.
Let's talk about that for a second. Obviously, there's a lot of batteries in the world, right? They power everything from your agricultural equipment to fighter jets to your off-roader and everything in between. I've heard that even some of the house battery technology can use an old car battery cell because the use case is so different that when a battery is basically used up for mobility, it could still be used for storage. And that there's a lot of different programs for recycling. And then also there's even a lot of hybrid trucks now, whether it's eTorque or the early GMs that have batteries. How do you replace those? What's going on in that aftermarket replacement? Does everything have to go through the OE now, or is that something that a company like Clarios will have on the aftermarket to keep those vehicles on the road?
As far as motive power batteries, higher voltage stuff, yeah, we're working on that. Doesn't mean we're going to launch anything soon, but we're definitely in that space from an expertise standpoint, for sure. Not anything that's offered right now, but that is a challenge, right? When you've got to replace these big batteries, and what is the potential upgrade going to be? Is it going to be lithium ion? Will it be a new technology?
Yeah, will you be able to get, maybe your plug-in hybrid has 25 miles of all battery range, but then after the OE batteries clapped out, power density or technology might be different in 10 years, and now maybe it's 50 miles, and you love your car all over again because you get new use out of it with replacement. I would be really interested to see what that landscape looks like in 5 or 10 years.
That'd definitely be interesting.
Done a lot of missionary work in third world countries, guys, and in particular in Haiti and South Africa. And I have been told that batteries that are have a great degree of discharge, but if they're recycled, it can be stacked and perhaps provide power to villages where there's no power. So I look forward to hearing how just recycling in general is such a good story, but also what happens over time with renewing and using some of the batteries.
So what does that mean to recycle a battery? What's the process behind it? And then just on a side piece, do Optima batteries, obviously they can be recycled, they have a high pure lead percentage in them. Is there any difference in recycling an Optima versus a standard lead acid battery, plate battery?
There isn't a big difference in recycling. There is a difference in how new batteries are made versus new general automotive batteries versus Optima batteries. But from a recycling standpoint, um, regular car batteries versus Optima is pretty much the same. Optima recycling is pretty valuable because of the purity of the materials, but the plastic, the lead, and also even the acid is recycled.
Oh,
So
interesting. Okay.
yeah, it's pretty cool. And when that acid is not recycled, it's made into things like laundry detergent. So it is recycled, may not go back into a battery, but it's all used for something.
What is is it almost 100% of what comes out of a battery? I mean, you have a plastic case, you've got the acid, you've got the lead plates. There's not a lot to a battery in terms of the bill of materials that goes in. And I understand the chemistry. There's a lot that goes in that, the R&D, the sizing, all that. But from just bare bones perspective, the bill of materials isn't that great. So I would imagine the entire thing could probably be recycled, right?
For the most part, it's about 98%. There's things in the battery, the impurities that come out, or the actual, like in an AGM battery, it's wrapped in a fibrous glass mat that can't be recycled. But definitely the lead, definitely the plastic, and also the electrolyte that's inside.
So you talked about your new, I guess, are we calling them orange tops? Your lithium batteries. So they're kind of cool looking. Orange top with I think it's a darker gray body on them. And you've been experimenting with different sizes, and we've seen a few hints here at different shows and whatnot. What's the ultimate use case for those going to be? Are they going to be to power a overlanding van? Are they going to be used for motorcycles? Are they going to be used, or are they going to be used for anywhere they fit? Is there a certain market that you're aiming for, or a certain use case that you've got your eye on for those batteries?
Yes, there's a few significant benefits from a lithium standpoint. A huge one in our world is weight. So it costs a lot of money to save weight. And up to this point, and even, now everybody's looking for, what is that next thing that I can save a chunk of weight? Titanium, carbon fiber. A battery is typically, in a typical automobile, is 50 pounds. And how much does it cost you in titanium or carbon fiber to save 30 pounds, right? Well, you can do that easily by trying a lithium battery. So that's a significant benefit. Longer life, the cycle life of lithium, like in your cell phone, you don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah.
But lead acid may only do that 50 times or 300 times. But a lithium battery is like 1,000 cycles plus. So it's a massive difference there. A lithium battery doesn't sulfate like a lead acid battery. If you let a lead acid battery sit at a lower voltage, it can start to sulfate. Lithium doesn't do that. There are other inherent risks to lithium in its pure form, but when it's managed properly, you can get at least 10 years of life out of it, and consistent power at a much lighter package. So that's kind of the benefit. Anybody looking to pack in more power or energy storage per pound in size, like in a vehicle where you're cramped with space, or like in a vehicle where you're using a lot of electronics, microwaves and refrigerators and things like that. That's where lithium really provides a significant benefit. Then on the power sport side, it's all about obviously saving weight.
So will there ever be not to give away the future product plans, but will there ever be a lithium orange top starting battery for vehicles as the next line to the blue top, the yellow top, and the red top?
That's a wonderful question. And I can tell you that we're just a couple months away from the launch of our new H6 lithium battery, which is a drop-in replacement for most modern vehicles, particularly European sports cars. But also, I've been testing one for the last 6 months in my daily driven Raptor R, and it works wonderful. Actually, I beat the heck out of it out at King of Hammers. It works awesome. And I have a lot of electronics. I've got a radio, all kinds of lights, and all kinds of stuff.
I'm in the same boat. I've got my yellow top as my starting battery, but then I've got lithium ion in the back of the Jeep and it runs my fridge, my air compressor, my LED lights in the back, my GMRS radio, my race radio. All that's off the starting battery on my what I call my house batteries in the back of the Jeep, so that I can run those down and not have to worry about not being able to start in the morning, because I go way out there. I may do a 400-mile trip all off-road, and I'm 100 miles from anything. So, I try to build some redundancy into my system that way. One of the things I was kind of curious about, how does lithium, let's say we have a lithium-ion orange top Optima. Well, there's a lot of people who will use it as a daily driver and go here, go there, but how does it work for a really high-draw application like a winch pole or something like that? Is it still suitable for those types of things, or would you want a traditional battery for that use case?
You can use both. Our new lithium, being launched for automotive starting use, has to be configured for serious cranking power, which obviously a winch will do that on a consistent level. So it is designed for that, and it's a drop-in replacement for Jeep. So in our Group 31, we have two different chemistries, or same chemistries, but different how they're configured. One has very high cranking power and a little reduced amp hour rating, and then the other one is just designed for slow amperage drop.
Okay.
So
I'm excited to see that product line expand, because I think there's a lot of potential and a lot of opportunity to do some cool things with your vehicles, with being able to swap over to lithium on all of your powering needs, I guess.
Right on. Yeah, we're excited about it for sure.
Well, it also strikes me, is it correct that if you have that kind of weight savings, you're also affecting fuel economy, which every manufacturer is trying to change? If you're able to save that much weight, that's pretty big.
Yeah, I mean, we all know with new cars, they get heavier and heavier with safety equipment and all the electronics. EVs are particularly heavy, so because of the battery packs, you have to make the rest of the car a little bit lighter to compensate for that. And so they're always looking to shave off that, whatever weight they can. When we're talking about tens of pounds, that's major, because they're usually talking about shaving off half a pound here and there. Kind of curious. So lithium ions coming in, that's a very familiar technology. There's also, a bunch of different technologies, nickel metal hydride, or you see the LiPo4 or whatever that new one. You'll start seeing that in some of the battery boxes. And then sodium ion is another one. Are there technologies on the horizon, or at least being in R&D, that might replace lithium ion in the future? And then what are the benefits of those if the chemistry can be figured out?
Yeah, I think so. One of the big issues with lithium ion is, where do we get it, right? Where do we get the raw materials, and then how do you deal with it when you're finished? So that lithium, though it's a wonderful performing product, there are challenges and significant expense that goes along with that. So to make something, that's easier to manufacture, more accessible from a materials standpoint, and then also from a recycling or environmentally conscious, product, that's the big challenge. Sodium ion seems to check those boxes. Manufacturing and repeatability is a challenge, in that right now we've built product that works. We've proven that we can make it, and So we're extremely excited about it. Early samples didn't have the energy storage benefits that lithium does, but it does now. And it's getting to a point where it rivals the performance of lithium ion. So
Pretty
it's
exciting.
pretty exciting.
Yeah. So I'm kind of curious. Off-road motorsports is obviously a big deal. You've got the vibration, the dust, the speed, power draw. I mean, it seems like all the things that would challenge a battery. Are there any other types of motorsports or any other athletes that you are planning to or you do engage with that you think kind of pushes that message out about, ruggedness, durability, and the ability to work in extreme environments?
Yeah, quite a few. Bass fishing, believe it or not.
Okay.
Edwin Evers is a world champion bass fisherman. He's on our athlete list, and he's an amazing bass fisherman. But his trolling motor is a 36-volt trolling motor, and it's basically it's a motor, so it's like a constant high draw on the batteries, and he uses now 3 lithium batteries to for 36 volt to run his trolling motor, and they use those all day. It's not like you think, oh, trolling motor uses it 50% of the time. It's like once he gets to a spot, that's all he's using. That's the only thing moving his boat around. So yeah, bass fishing. We raced at Pikes Peak with a few different vehicles, ran with BBI and the Porsches that they built, the Radford that set a record with Tanner Faust, and those all used our Quad 30 Power Sports battery that's a lithium battery intended for UTVs. So those are a few. There's others in road racing, BMW road racing. Like I said, I've got one in my Raptor that's, been daily driven, but I do try to beat the heck out of it off road as well. But anything in any motorsport, whether it's on road, off road, everybody talks about weight.
Yeah.
And trust me, in bass fishing, they want to get that boat as light as possible.
Is that how you make a battery sexy? Because if you think about it, it's a product that hides under your hood or it's behind something, right? It's not the, Optimas look cool next to your, parts store battery, but how do you get somebody excited about a battery? Because it seems like it could be one of those products that you kind of don't think about it until you have to, and when you have to, now it's a big deal.
Right. Yeah, it's tough because it's not sexy like
it's not anodized brake calipers or something like that, right? Or a titanium exhaust.
Everybody wants to show off their new set of wheels, right?
Yeah.
It's not like everybody pulls up to Cars and Coffee and opens their hood and says, look at that. But anyway, that's been a challenge, is making batteries sexy. But it's not, I think that it's about the inverse, about how unsexy it is when your car doesn't start, right?
Yeah.
That's a great line.
Cheap insurance, really.
Right on.
Because, if your car doesn't start and you're out doing what we're doing, it could, literally be life and death, depending on where you are. So what about some of the features that we see out there that are in some batteries, like the partitioned power? So you have a jump start, enough for a jump start within the same battery rather than having to bring your NOCO along or something like that. Will you start incorporating some of those technologies into your products in the future as well?
They're in it now in our new lithium product.
Okay.
And it's called Optimus CPR. And essentially on the Power Sports line, we have an extended cable where you can mount a little device on your frame or on your handlebars, and it doubles as a couple different things. One, it turns on and off the battery. So if you ever want to put it in storage and put it in sleep mode, you can do that.
Huge.
Or you can fire it up at any given time if you leave your lights on. If you have a power drain over a certain amount of time, it actually maintains 30% of its original charge. It'll shut down when it gets down to that 30%, but you can come out and push that button, the Optimus CPR button, and your vehicle will start again. And hopefully that alternator will take over and recharge it. But it gives you that security of at least one more start. Then when I say it doubles as also the charging port. So vehicles like brand new Razor R, you can't get to the battery to recharge it or to jumpstart it unless you remove the seat. Oh. So having this little cable out there that, where you can plug in a charger or have that extra start is crazy. Everybody's eyes light up when you tell them about that. And when they actually use it, it's a pretty cool feature.
Imagine that, having solving problems and giving people a reason. There you go. That's how you make batteries sexy. We just covered it right there.
Nice.
But we also have that technology in our automotive lithium, our Group 31s. The cool deal there is through Bluetooth, you have an Optima app, and you can actually turn it on, turn it off, put it in sleep mode with your app.
Talk to me about quality and how the batteries are manufactured. You had mentioned earlier in our interview about the old days where, they were kind of assembled by hand and things like that. Where have we gone in 3 decades of building these batteries? How do they go together today? What's it like? What's the quality control?
Yeah, our new facility in Monterey has been consistently upgraded. It's a wonderful facility with extremely high automation. There's in our old factory, a lot of it, to your point, was hand assembled. There was a lot of, I would say, a lot of the employees and people who were building the batteries. They were there for years, and there was a lot of knowledge on how to kind of tweak some of the machines as they went through a process. Today, all of that is automated, and we're building a battery today that's far superior to what we built before. Even though it was really good before, now it's much better from a consistency standpoint. So when we dial it in to how this is manufactured, how much lead is in, or how thick the lead plates are, how much acid gets absorbed into each cell, all those things are all very tightly controlled.
So I know you guys have your Optima Chargers line of battery chargers, and I've used them, and they're great. What are the challenges to bringing back or charging your style of battery? And I know over the years there's been some education behind that, because people have said, oh, I went to charge it and this battery's dead, but you go to find out with the right charger on there, it's not dead. It just needs to be brought back. And you guys have, over the years, educated people to that. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, there's unique properties to AGM batteries, absorbed glass matte batteries, which is what our battery category is for our lead acid product. And similar to other brands as well that make pure lead batteries or even non-pure lead AGM, there's wonderful benefits to that take extra knowledge when it comes time to do things like charging. One of the wonderful benefits is that our pure lead AGM has very low internal resistance. It'll keep putting out power when a conventional battery stops. So if you leave your lights on with a vehicle with a conventional battery or vehicle with an Optima battery, the one that are same rated, same specifications, the one with the Optima battery, the lights will stay on longer because it's drawing that voltage down to a lower voltage. The one with the traditional battery stopped at probably 9 volts. The one with an Optima or other pure lead battery will go down to maybe 6 or 4 volts, right? The challenge is that most generic battery chargers that you'll buy off the shelf that are made for basic car batteries won't recognize a battery that's less than 9 volts. So it'll just sit there and click, 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 and you say, oh, battery's gone, right? Well, our chargers will charge a battery that has voltage as low as 1.25 volts.
Wow.
And what's amazing is, it's a funny story, but what we found through return batteries, we would do a study with return batteries from some of our largest customers, and we found that over 60% of the batteries were merely discharged. Most of them were used up. They weren't warranty batteries. They were just old. But the other ones were merely discharged. And when we'd use our technique, we'd bring them back, and they were perfectly good batteries. And what we did with those, for 2 years, we powered a series. Remember a series called Chump Car?
Yeah.
Yeah. They've morphed into something else today. But back in the day, we gave all of those racers those return batteries. So we were powering race cars with perfectly good batteries that people thought were bad batteries. And we would use that story with some of our retailers saying, be careful with all these batteries you're taking back, because they're not all of them are bad, right? And not that there was a ton of them being returned, a ton. There was, a large amount of them. But anyway, that was a fun story.
Well, I'm a big fan of the chargers. I have used on project vehicles that have either been sitting or just something that we took out of a vehicle and put on the shelf to use later. It's discharged, and you're like, oh, this battery's no good. And you're like, well, hold on, I got this Optima charger. Let me see if I can bring it back. And I would say, 9 times out of 10, we were able to bring those batteries that were sitting on the shelf that had been used before back, and they went into another vehicle. So it's, definitely, I've seen it work before, and it's great. Sue, if you are going to your 7th continent, what battery are you taking with you?
It's an Optima battery, and it's going to be lithium. And it would just be a matter of the vehicle. As a matter of fact, I had an interest in racing this year's Dakar Rally in a side-by-side with an electric system, and then using some kind of Optima or Varda battery for other ancillary things on board. Yeah, that 7th continent, if I was invited, I would go in a heartbeat.
What's your next trip, or what would you like to do in 2025? What far off place do you hope you get to go visit?
Well, I was just asked today to put in a quick note. Amy Lerner will be racing in the Rally Jameel in Saudi Arabia, an all-women's rally. It's still confusing for some folks to think about Saudi Arabia as not letting women drive, and that's not the case at all. As a matter of fact, Ford Motor Company did driving training for women.
And they just started allowing women to drive, was it 4 years ago? Something like that. So it's still novel, but it's women drive all over the place.
And race. There were a number of Saudi racers. So I could be going. I covered this rally for a company out of Dubai and England. I just was asked today to put in some of my qualifications to bring the news story to the U.S. so they can bring more U.S. racers to Saudi Arabia for Rally Jameel. And then I was asked 2 weeks ago to go back to China. I know Lauren Healy went. I had a family member that needed me here that was facing some surgery, and I let her know that I would go nowhere for a month. And it was 4 days later that I got invited to go to China and be there for the Bronco Raptor introduction.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And Lauren went for that. But I've let the folks that I work with in China know that I'm very eager to come back. And I'm hoping in the next couple months, my next formal program is with Ford driving their new Expedition, as you know.
I will see you there.
Yes, but I will sort of end my part by saying if I go back to Shanghai, this is a funny story. I had just met Cam and Tom Downey of Clarios before I went. I met them in late January, early February, and I was on my way to China for the first time and said so. And one or both of them said, look up Rachel with Optima in Shanghai. And my first night in Shanghai, Rachel took my colleague Justin He and me out to dinner. So if I go back for their SEMA-like show called the GT show, I, funnily enough, I will look up Rachel Optima in China. So that's a fun story to tell.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you guys both coming on today, and Sue, it's fun to share your exploits with the audience. And Cam, talking about batteries. If you guys are interested in getting the best batteries on the market, you want to go to optimabatteries.com. And of course, you can follow them. They're on all of different socials. So Facebook, X, YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest. It's all Optima batteries. So it's the same word on any of those. Super easy to find. Like I said, I have been using Optimas for decades, and it's a great battery, and I run one today. So Cam, I appreciate you always supporting my ventures and what I'm up to, and appreciate you making the time to come on today.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate everything you do for the Optima brand, but more importantly, everything you do for the off-road community. So thank you very much.
And I also saw on one of the social handles, I was encouraged to bring to the table, I believe, Cam, it's Clarios International.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We will look forward to seeing you in person soon. Maybe in a far-off place or a foreign country. All right. I think it's time to check in with the 5-star hotline.
Oh, come on and be part of the show called the 5-Star Hotline. 657-205-6105. It's the 5-Star Hotline. 5-Star Hotline.
This is Calvin again. The other thing I wanted to talk about was I have a coworker who has a 14 Nissan Titan, which I was pretty impressed to see. You don't see a lot of those. Well, I guess you can see quite a few, but I haven't seen a whole lot of them. And his is a little unique. It is up on a 10-inch lift, and I think it's on 37s. He bought it that way. He's always like trying to fall back into orbit when he buys a vehicle. His high school vehicle was a 84, 86 Suburban that had a 14-inch lift on 40s. So it's kind of been his thing, buying big vehicles. Anyhow, this isn't dogging on anything. This has been modified very heavily. But he's got a little over 150,000 miles on that. He did just lose the transmission, but again, I'm pretty sure that somebody's gone in and messed with a lot of what he's got going on. And he's getting that fixed, but he has said that has been one of the most reliable trucks that he has ever had, even with all the modifications and the tuning that was done. It has just run like a top, and it really hasn't had an issue up until now. And I mean, he also doesn't drive it too kindly. It's not a pavement princess. He will go down any road that his truck will fit down, and some that maybe it won't. So just wanted to pass that on. I've been thinking about getting a Nissan Titan if I ever get rid of my K1500, but we'll see what happens. But show's been great. Honestly, the suckage has gone down since Mr. Light Show. Not to throw any shade on him, but since Mr. Light Show has excused himself from the area. But you're doing great. I will always continue to keep listening. And maybe an Emmy Hall, yeah, buddy.
Dude, appreciate that. Titan being driven hard. No problems until 150,000 miles, and that's with a giant lift kit and 37s on it. It's pretty good. Great trucks. Well, I'm still trying to get my groove here, so but I appreciate the kind words, Calvin. And just for you, a little Emmy, yeah, buddy.
Yeah, buddy!
John, what's up, dude? It's Rich. Hey, that last episode, what I want to just listen to now, is mint, bro. It's absolutely mint. No, just kidding. It was awesome. I really enjoy the content. I'm pretty curious about the electric. There was one guy you were interviewing, and he's going to do Chevrolet electric Baja truck to some degree. I'm not a big fan of electric, as you already know, but I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. If you feel like that would be, if that's kind of where this market's headed, are we headed to have more electric vehicles running in Baja style class, these trophy truck style races? Anyways, just thought that was pretty interesting. Awesome episode as always, and yes, we do miss Jay. Jay, I know you're listening, and we missed you on the show, but grateful for Sean keeping it going, and would love to have a live episode, and also love to have like a meetup if you're ever interested. We want to do that again. Those live meetups are pretty fun. There's a lot of people I'd love to meet anyway, so hope you have a good day. 5 stars as always. Peace out.
Congratulations, you have earned 5 stars.
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate the voicemail as always. And a couple things. I think there's definitely going to be more EVs in racing as manufacturers want to prove the durability of that and really stress the powertrain and the batteries and charging and get through all that. I don't know that they'll be competitive outside of an EV class for a while, but yeah, I think you'll probably start seeing that. Obviously, the power is pretty intoxicating for the drivers, and the power delivery is pretty amazing. And you got to make things live with that kind of torque. So that's coming for sure. As far as a meetup, yeah, I would love to do a meetup with you guys. And as far as a live show, I'm hoping next month. I've just had so much travel, and we've got so many great episodes just backed up right now with all the interviews I've been doing lately. It'll take a little while for me to get a gap in the schedule where we can do that. But definitely want to do some sort of like fun Friday night where we all hang out and have a good time for an hour and a half or so. So anyway, really appreciate you checking in, and really appreciate all of our fans who leave messages on the 5-star hotline, 657-205-6105. Please be a part of the show. 5-star hotline. All right, before we wrap up the show, let's head over to Spotify and read a couple of comments you guys have left. Ryan _ said on the BFG episode, which was episode 7 with BFG's Brandon Sturgis, really wish more tire companies didn't forget about those of us who still run 15s. I only have a few options for 37s, and BFG isn't one of them. I hear you. I just think the problem these days is brakes are getting so big because vehicles are so heavy that everybody's upsizing. I think even on my Jeep, trying to get AV to do an 18-inch wheel so I can get big brakes on there. So it's kind of a struggle as the older vehicles die out and get less and less. Tire companies are less motivated to make those tire sizes. Now, there are ones out there, but maybe not in the most recent patterns and things like that. And then Cameron Street had checked in on our Truck News episode talking about TRXs in Australia. He says, heaps of TRXs in Australia. Yes, a baller car. In Redcliffe, Queensland, where I live, there's about 5 or 6 of them getting around, and countless amounts of Rams and Silverados in both 1500s and 2500s. They're more common than Land Cruisers or the Y62 these days. So always interested. I love Australian car culture, especially from the import side of bringing in some. I mean, we like to try and get in, all the 70 series and stuff they have down there. But I found it so fascinating that they import all of these American vehicles and then, have to get certified and right-hand drive, swap them, and all that kind of stuff. Maybe one of these days they'll try and find somebody down there who is responsible for importing or doing the conversion. I just think that'd be a great conversation. So anyway, all right, speaking of conversations, why don't you follow us on the Truck Show Podcast socials at Truck Show Podcast. Hit us up on the 5-star hotline, 657-205-6105, and join the Podshed Insiders on Facebook.
The Truck Show, the Truck Show, the Truck Show, oh, oh.
Of course, you can find me on social as well, at Sean P. Holman, or hit me up, truckshowpodcast@gmail.com. Truckshowpodcast@gmail.com. And I don't know if you guys have been checking the Truck Show Podcast page, but we've got a gazillion events going on under our events tab, and also featured products. We've added a few things. We've got some upcoming guests that are going to be giving you guys some discounts as well that I think you'll be pretty stoked on. So always go to the featured products tab and see what we have offered to you guys. All right, coming up March 28th and 29th is the C10 Nationals in Las Vegas. March 29th is also the 3rd Kernsville Jeep Jam in Kernsville, North Carolina. Here in Huntington Beach next weekend, Hot Rods and Helos It's going to be awesome at the beach. In fact, we're going to have my buddies who run that show are going to be in studio, and hopefully we'll get a show in before that show kicks off. You get to hear a little bit about it. Also, April 11th and 12th, you got Florida Truck Meet with our boy Jordan. Yeah, Jordan, haven't heard from you in a while. Check in, brother. April 18th to 28th, Jeep Beach 2025 in Daytona. April 23rd to the 27th, got the Spring Carlisle Collector Car Flea Market Corral and Auction. The Carlisle Fairgrounds, April 24th, the East Mojave Track out at the MDHCA in Goffs. April 25th and 27th, Southeast Mini Truck Nationals coming up in Maggie Valley Fairgrounds. And May 4th, Classic Chevys of Southern California's 42nd Annual Charity Car Show at the Rancho San Antonio's Boys Home. So anyway, we got a ton of events up there. See what's going on in your area. And if you got an event to send me, truckshowpodcast@gmail.com. Again, just go to truckshowpodcast.com and hit the events tab. And our events tool is pretty cool. If you see something you like, you can click right to registration or tickets directly from our website. And we try and do that as a service to the truck enthusiast industry. It doesn't cost anything, no charge. Just send us your event, and I will have Maren Holman put that up for us, and you'll see it on there. So anyway, lots going on there. Guys, really hope you're still loving the Truck Show podcast, and I really appreciate all the support you guys have given us. Got to thank our sponsors, NissanUSA.com, Frontiers, Armadas, and a whole bunch of different family cars. A lot of value, a lot of tech. Nissan's a great company. They've been with us since the beginning. AMSOIL.com, the first in synthetics. There isn't a finer motor oil out there. Synthetic lube, car care products, everything you need, AMSOIL.com, especially their oil change kits. Get everything you need, a box to your door. You can get the little sticker that reminds you when to do it again. And don't forget, with AMSOIL, you get extended oil change intervals as well. So, Kershaw.KaiUSA.com. If you are feeling around in your pocket and you got car keys and like a Zin 10 or some lint, but there's no knife, go get yourself a new Kershaw knife. They're at every price point, lifetime guarantee, and there's a discount also for TSP listeners. And last but not least, please support OVRmag.com. Get all your adventure content, off-roading, lifestyle, gear. See what we got going on over there. And our print magazine is second to none. Big, thick, great paper. We don't interrupt the edit with ads. The great place to be. OVRmag.com. Truck Show Podcast listeners get a free year to our digital library or a discount on print. All right, that'll do it for this episode of the Truck Show Podcast. I'll see you next time.
The Truck Show Podcast is a production of Truck Famous LLC. This podcast was created by Sean Holman and Jay Tillis, hosted by Sean Holman, and uses production elements by DJ Omar Khan and Jay Tillis. If you like what you've heard, please open your Apple Podcast or Spotify app and leave us a 5-star review. And if you're a fan, there's no better way to support the show than by sharing it and patronizing our sponsors. Some vehicles may have been harmed during the making of this podcast.
All right, you guys. Love you, mean it. Bye.